Whisper, My Heart. Written by FE3H. Read by Ashe. Chapter 1. You want to come with me? You think I'm ready? From across the table, Lord Lenato Gaspard nodded. Of course. I think it's the perfect time for you to become acquainted with the royal court. Ashe stared at his father in shock. Right. But shouldn't Kristoff be going? On his left, his brother laughed. You mean you would rather stay here and deal with Lord Halloward's farming dispute? Or better yet, whatever issue is plaguing Lord Kleeman this time? I'm more than willing to take you up on that. Boys, Lenato warned without any true frustration. Addressing the younger man, he smiled. It's nothing to be scared of, son. You'll get to explore the capital, observe some of the political processes. Think of it as a field trip if you wish. And I bet you'd make some new friends. I believe Duke Fraldarius has a son around your age. The prince too, I think, Kristoff added. Ashe is going to meet the prince? The men turned to a young female voice that had entered the library. Can I come too? She asked, hopping on her father's lap. He laughed, hugging her close. Not this time, Evelyn. You'll get to go to the prince's coronation before the new year. Evelyn groaned. I never get to do anything fun. Soon, sweetheart, I promise. Lenato smiled and placed a reassuring kiss on the top of her head as she fidgeted in his lap. Anyway, Ashe, as a future lord of this territory, you owe it to our neighbors to be familiar with the parliamentary processes and the politics of nobility, so that they'll trust you to stand for them and be their representative. Of course, Ashe responded with determination. And I don't take this responsibility lightly. His father smiled and nodded. I know you don't. You and Kristoff together will be great leaders when my time is up, even if your influence is in a very limited capacity compared to his. Perhaps you will both help Prince Dimitri change such laws surrounding the nobility. That would be nice, Kristoff agreed, leaning back against the sofa. Ashe shouldn't be considered any less just because he's adopted. Evelyn, too. It would be an uphill battle, their father cautioned. Many of the other lords are set in the old ways we've been governing, he chuckled. I think they're in for a surprise once the prince fully ascends the throne. You think so? Kristoff questioned, never one to pass up an opportunity to talk politics. Ashe sat silently, absorbing the conversation. Lenato nodded. The late King Lambert was slowly and cautiously beginning a transition of sorts from the current ways of nobility to something more progressive, becoming less reliant on blood heirs and leveling the field, so to speak. So far, Prince Dimitri has echoed his father's belief, and I'd imagine he'd work to continue this legacy. In the corner of the room, the clock struck the top of the hour. But that is a discussion for another time. Evelyn slid off his lap, and the older man grasped her hand. Shall we go see what Celia and company have on the menu for us this evening? Yeah, Evelyn said excitedly, pulling her father out of the study, Kristoff following not far behind. Ashe lingered in the study a moment longer, reflecting on the conversation. On the one hand, he was excited. His first trip to Ferdiad. It would be almost like a night story. On the other, Ashe! He looked up, drawn out of his thoughts by his sister standing in the doorway. Come on, slowpoke, she teased. Ashe sat aside his thoughts for the moment and chuckled at his sister. Sorry, Evelyn, I'm coming. She took his hand, and they walked into the dining room for dinner. They wouldn't be leaving for the capital for a few days, but Ashe wanted to be prepared. Celia had given him a preliminary list of things to pack, so after dinner he got started. A suitcase lay open on his bed, with clothing haphazardly tossed in. Some more formal attire had been set on the back of his desk chair, to be tried on or freshly laundered. Someone's nervous. Ashe startled and turned to the voice. Can't be too prepared, I guess. Kristoff smiled knowingly, and Ashe knew his brother saw right through him. Okay, maybe I'm a little nervous, he admitted with a sigh. Want to talk about it? Kristoff was an amazing older brother. He was always there with a word of advice or to lend an ear when you needed it. Ashe shook his head and turned his attention back to the shirt he'd been attempting to fold. It's nothing. His brother chuckled. That's your lion voice. You can't get rid of me with that anymore. He paused. Seriously, Ashe, what's on your mind? Ashe tossed the shirt into the suitcase and started absently playing with the ring on his finger. It's just going back to earlier. The rules haven't changed, and you're the heir to Gaspard. It should be you going to court, not me. What if they don't accept me? Kristoff crossed his arms and leaned against the door jamb. What do you mean? Ashe sighed, shoving the suitcase aside and crawling into the bed. He reached for his favorite stuffed animal, a blue-hued lion, a cartoony version of the one depicted on the Fargan flag. He hugged it close to his chest, taking comfort in the first item Leonardo gave him after the adoption, the first item that was truly his. Do you remember when Evelyn and I started school? And there was that one boy who bullied us? Always saying that Leonardo wasn't our real father and you weren't our brother? Kristoff scrunched his face and scoffed. Yeah, and I overheard one day and spent a week in detention for pushing him down the hill. He stood up straight, puffed out his cheeks, and put his hand on his hips. You leave my brother and sister alone, or something like that. He chuckled and smiled, relaxing against the door again. Totally worth it, in case you were wondering. Ashe allowed himself a laugh. Yeah, anyway, I keep imagining that, only, worse. Kristoff's eyes widened mischievously. You're saying I may get the opportunity to push Margrave Gautier down a hill? What? No, that's not what I mean at all. Kristoff laughed, a deep and full-bellied sound much like Leonardo's. I'm kidding. He pushed off the door jamb and sat next to his brother, the mattress dipping with his weight. The older man wrapped an arm around Ashe's shoulders, holding him close to his chest. Ashe easily accepted the comforting gesture. Really, though, Kristoff began, most people at court will barely notice you're there, and the few that do won't care about your past. It's not any of their business anyway. Dad will take care of everything. You just sit there and take it all in. Ashe nodded and gave his brother a hug. You're right. I'm being childish. No, you're not. This is a new territory for you, so it's completely fair that you're feeling nervous, or even scared of the unknown. I know you'll be great. Ashe pulled away and nodded, eyes full of renewed determination, worries abated for the time being. Thanks. I should finish packing then. His brother reached out and ruffled Ashe's silver hair like he did when they were younger. You probably should. Don't worry too much about forgetting anything. You can always pick it up in the capital. Kristoff stood and made his way to the door. Hey, Chris? Kristoff smiled and turned to his brother again. Ashe smiled. Thanks. The older man smiled back at him. Any time, Ashe. He turned and left, closing the door behind him. Ashe let out a breath and looked around the room. Guess I better get started, he said to himself. He set his toy lion back at the head of the bed and grabbed his shirt once again.